Hey everybody, if you're a small business owner who sells at both in-person craft fairs and also online, and you've asked yourself or wondered, should I be charging the same price in both locations? Then this video is for you because, well, I have some thoughts. Welcome to today's video on pricing strategies between in-person and online selling. My name's Bill from the Craft Fair Insider, and I've been selling both online and in person since around 2016, so I've had some successes, I've had some failures, and that's what this channel is talking about, sharing that information with you. Okay, so the question comes up very frequently about whether or not you should have different prices, whether you're selling in person or at craft fairs. So let's break down both of those situations to help you make a decision for yourself. Generally speaking, people talk about having lower prices at craft fairs if they are considering a price difference at all. So I'm actually going to start with talking about pricing for your online sales. Okay, so we all know that selling online has some costs associated with it, right? You have your actual website cost itself. So that includes your domain registration. That would mean potentially your hosting services as well. And you see that price, generally a big number, up front. So it doesn't matter whether you're using Shopify, WordPress, or some other web development tool, you're going to get that sticker shock. And that amount is in your mind most likely when you are pricing your items. There are, of course, more costs associated with selling online. Now, if you're using a marketplace like Etsy, eBay, GoImagine, you're also going to have your listing fees. Now, they can come either as part of a monthly subscription where you pay a certain dollar amount for a certain number of items, or every time you list an item, you could have a cost associated with that, like a 20-cent listing fee. That's going in just right off the top there. Now, if you sell an item, then you are, in some cases, going to have a transaction fee if you're using a marketplace like Etsy or GoImagine, and that percentage can vary. In addition to that, you are going to have payment processing fees. So that's when somebody uses a credit card. Those don't go to necessarily the platform itself, but it goes to the payment processors. Now, Etsy and some other places, maybe they will tack on an extra, percent or 0.5% or whatever. So they get a small sliver of it, but the majority of that money is going right to the credit card processing company. In addition to selling the items, you are going to have then, you have to get the item shipped out to the customer. So that's going to be boxes, that's going to be packing material, that's going to be the cost of your labels, the cost of the actual postage itself. And depending on how you are handling your shipping, it could be baked into the price so the customer feels like they're getting free shipping, or you could be charging them the same amount that you are being charged for the shipping label. It just varies. Sometimes maybe you win a little, sometimes you lose a little. It kind of works itself out in the wash. So I'm going to set the actual shipping label aside. Like I said, kind of a wash there. You also have all of your time spent photographing your items, writing the titles, writing the descriptions, loading them into whatever your website or Etsy or GoImagine shop. You're spending time getting that out so that's available for the purchase. And as you can see, as you're going through all of this, okay, so I'm going to have to pay for my website. I'm going to have to pay potentially a transaction fee. I might have to pay payment processing fees. This is really adding up very quickly, and That's why a lot of people think that they should have a higher price for their online items. Okay, and that, on the surface, that's a fair point. Let's take a look at all of the fees associated with an in-person craft fair. We're going to start off with the easy one, and that is, of course, your booth fee. Now, if you've watched my video, Not All Craft Fairs Are Created Equal, you will know that there's a wide range of different types of craft fairs, and along with those wide ranges are wide ranges of booth fees. They could be, as low as $15. They can go up to hundreds, or in some cases thousands, for a really big weekend at an expo. You're going to kind of equate that to your website fee, of having the hosting of your website or your subscription portion of it, right? So there is some initial cost for your in-person craft fair. In addition to that, and it's going to vary from craft fair to craft fair based on where you live, but there is travel expenses associated with that. So you are going to have to get there. So most likely your car, you're going to have gas, you're going to have wear and tear on your vehicle. The further away from your home you get, there's a possibility of having to pay tolls, whether it be for like a turnpike or a bridge crossing fee, something like that. And if it's really far, then possibly you're going to have a hotel fee, and then possibly even meals before, after, etc. And again, all that adds up overall towards the total fee for the craft fair. Now, you're at the craft fair and you sell an item, you're going to need to package that up. So potentially that's going to be a bag instead of a box. That's going to be packing material. Now maybe it's a little bit different than what you would use if you were shipping, but particularly if you have a lot of very fragile items that you want to make sure are protected as the person shops throughout the day, the last thing you want is for somebody to have a broken item before they've even pulled out of the craft fair. So you want to make sure that that's wrapped up really well. Now that all goes, again, very similar to your boxes for shipping things out. Now, as you can see, your costs are starting to increase for your craft fair. So at this point, maybe you're reconsidering your initial thinking about charging different prices. Let's also talk about an opportunity loss for you being at that craft fair. So let's say it's an hour for you to set up and get there. Let's say it's, a 8-hour show. You have to tear down. You have to drive home. That is most of your day sort of shot, if you will, where you're not necessarily going to be making items, listing them online, making items for your next show. Sure, some people are able to still kind of multitask and do one or two things at the craft fair, but for the most part, you're not really very productive because you are interacting with your shoppers, you're packaging things up. So it's not as straightforward as if you were just sitting at home focused and making items. That opportunity loss there does cost you money, maybe not immediately down the road, right? So all of these costs really do add up. You do end up having a lot of expenses tied to a craft fair that on the surface seem like maybe you don't until you start adding it all up. If you do have different prices, think about it from your customer's perspective too. So if you sell an item for, let's say, $50 online and then $40 at a craft fair. Let's say you only have one of an item at the craft fair. Somebody buys it for $40 and you give them your card, say, oh, I sell online as well. So now when they go to make that purchase, not only is it higher, they're probably also going to be paying shipping. So you've introduced a bit of friction with your customers. They start thinking, well, are they ripping me off online? Why am I paying different price? Why is it a different price? It's the same candle, it's the same piece of jewelry, it's the same whatever you're selling, but they're different prices. Are they messing with me? And you start having a very negative feeling attached to you and your brand, which you want to completely avoid. When we talk about friction, that is any time your buyer pauses, stops, and has to think. Because if you get people thinking about the transaction and the dollar amount, then the longer they think, the less likely they are going to be to buy, or potentially, if they do buy, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth, and you might never hear from them again. Your pricing is so much more than just a price. It reflects value. It reflects your artistry. It reflects your time. Not simply the venue that you happen to be selling at. So I do think it's really important that we have consistent pricing both online and in person. It is just a more equal experience. And sometimes you make a little more in person or you make a little more online. Overall, everything kind of, goes out in the wash, if you will. I'm going to say pricing, though, is very different than choosing to have an in-person special, because that original price is still maintained in both places. So maybe you have a, buy two, get one free, or a percentage off if they buy a second one, something like that. I think having a sale is very different than charging different prices, and then keeping track of, did this one sell there for this amount or that amount. Just make it clean on yourself, make it easy on yourself. And if you choose to have a sale, sales definitely have a different perception with folks. They kind of feel like they're getting a deal. Personally, I don't run sales on anything. Or very, 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 very rarely do I have sales on my handmade items. I do have some supplies that I sell online, and occasionally I will run a sale on those supplies. I think it's very different, though, than my actual handmade ornaments and decor items, because it still took me the same amount of time. Like, I calculate out what I want my profit margins to be off of those items. So generally speaking, I don't put those on sale there. So let me know, does this video change your mind in any way, shape, or form about what your pricing strategy is going to be? If it did, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, also let me know in the comments. And please make sure to like and subscribe to this video. If there's somebody that is a craft fair buddy of yours and they haven't discovered the channel yet, I would really appreciate it if you shared this video with them, because YouTube absolutely loves when we share videos. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and good luck out there.